We are back. The finals have well and truly begun, and it was a weekend that hurt my soul a little bit because I had faith. But hopefully the girls could turn it around for Newcastle. But we're going to start overseas this week. First of all, Michelle, how are you this week? Obviously, big win on your side of the draw.
Well, I wouldn't say it was a big win, but an important win.
Same. Depends on how you look at it. Cody, neither of your teams, both home or favourite, are still playing. How are you feeling watching everything as a neutral?
I really need to brush off this tag as a Wanderers. I'm not a Wanderers fan. I don't support the Wanderers in any way,
I never said
shape,
you
or
would.
form.
I'm just saying that they're your home team.
No, well, look, you know what? This weekend was great. Daniela Galic got on the score sheet. Indiana Dos Santos got an assist, and friend of the pod, Mackenzie Hawkesby, scored. So, pretty good weekend in my books.
We are manifesting goals here. We are going to start overseas before we jump into Australia this week, guys. Just because we haven't really loved our overseas teams a lot in the last few weeks, focusing on finals. I have figured out listening back to the show. So sorry for those of you that want to know what's going around the world. If you haven't been keeping up to date, Caitlin Torpy and Emily Van Egmond, nearly forgot that name. Sorry, Evie. Went down to Orlando Pride this week in the NWSL in the States. 1-0 loss to that team, and there are some absolute names playing in the NWSL this year as well. Like that Orlando Pride team is stacked. San Diego stacked. It's just a league of full names. I love it. Do we have anyone else playing in the NWSL right now that we need to be aware of? Any name?
Yeah.
I think it's just 2 in one team, I believe. Keep an eye on that. We'll fact check ourselves. If we need to come back to it, you'll hear it next week. In the WSL, though, things are getting to the pointy end of that season as well. City are going 5 straight with wins. It might even be further than that. I haven't gone back to look. 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God. City haven't lost in 10. So that's huge. Where is the game? Hello? There it is there. They took down West Ham 5-0 overnight. So not a great result for Macca and Cat's not playing at the moment, so just Macca really. Arsenal 3-0 over Leicester. Liverpool 1-0 over Bristol. Brighton and Everton. Everton got up over Brighton. And then Chelsea played out a 3-0 win. It's going to be an interesting end to the season. I think City have actually, no, there's only a 3-point gap, 6-point gap between Arsenal to the top. So still a lot to play for. Chelsea have a game in hand, 3 points back as well. So we will come in to focus on that as it kind of rears its head, guys. We obviously are full ball into finals, having both our favorite teams in mine and Michelle in the finals is huge. Cody is doing all Cody does in the background, being the content god that he is. So we will focus in on the WSL. Does anyone have anything to add internationally this week? Anything that we should be aware of? Oh, Cody, you take it away with the big news this week that you, I believe, brought up last week and we just kind of brushed over. But
I had to think what you meant for a second. I was like, what are we talking about? What big news is there? No, yeah, I said it last week. Polydora looks like her Crystal Palace side could be in the WSL next season. They look like they're edging ever so closely to that. I believe they've only got 2 games left to play.
Have they clinched?
They're 2 points ahead, and they play the team coming second on the final day. So it's pretty exciting end to the season, if I say so myself. And that Crystal Palace Sunderland game would be a big one. I'd be surprised if Crystal Palace don't win, considering they look like a team doing well. I'll be honest. I don't watch a lot of women's championship in England, mainly because
we can't.
There's nowhere to watch it. but yeah, no. Look, Polydora looks like she's doing alright. It doesn't look like she's played that many games. Injured this season as well, so that probably hasn't. But look, she's part of a championship winning squad. You can't knock that. And it looks at most games. Did I cut out for a bit?
All right, Michelle and I are going to take this. Yep, Cody's internet's on the fritz. For anyone that we did start that story, Polydor with Crystal Palace, they look like they're edging closer to clinching promotion to the WSL. So we'll keep an eye on that. I think the final week is next week. I'll play this weekend, and the next weekend will be the final week. So you'll hear about that because we could have another Aussie in the WSL, which is huge. Elsewhere around the world, Cody, great timing. That was like your moment to shine, and you just fully hit Wi-Fi no. Paris FC had a loss and a draw this week as they played a catch-up game for their, I think it was Champions League games. PSG had a 3-3 draw against Guingamp. Lyon well out in front, 6-0 over Saint Etienne. Lyon are 9 points clear with 2 games to play. So they, I think, have now wrapped up the league. That would be it. Game over. Lyon are pretty much champions of France. So I haven't seen anything that has officially posted that, but I believe that mathematically would work.
Can I just add to this, Leon? There was a video that came out with Ellie Carpenter and one of her teammates who I actually don't know who's the name of. That's all right, doesn't matter. But I think it was on The Zone, part of like Champions League content that they were making, and they both said that if they had to choose a goalkeeper, it would be Tian Endler. So Endler Supremacy should have won Goalkeeper of the Year once again because she's the best goalkeeper in the world. By far.
No bias at all, right, Michelle?
Zero bias, but she's the best. Fact.
You heard it here first. Michelle is putting her hand up to run the Ballon d'Or nominations next year and deciding who wins. Let's bring it home because we had a huge week in football here at home. For anyone that's been living under a rock, we are into semi-final action. 2-legged action, that is. So that means all the scores from this week carry over to next week. And if you won, you've got a lead. If you've lost, you've got some work to do. We'll start. Now, am I wrong in saying both of these games were originally scheduled for 2 different kickoff times?
It was scheduled for 2 different times, but with the Mariners men's side being stuck in Dubai, I believe it was, after a random freak rainstorm, the airport and basically Dubai itself was flooded.
Yeah.
And so the men's team were unable to come back on time for the game. But because it was a 10 bowled fixture, meaning that like the league had obviously paid for that time, that 3 p.m. time slot, instead of just keeping the women's game at 5:45 for the streaming game, they pushed it forward. So they would play the 3 p.m. time slot, so it would be on TV. And I don't know why everyone's so mad about it. Everyone has been saying, put the game back on TV, put the game back on TV. And then it happened, and everyone's like, why would they do that? Why would they change my plans? And it's like, well, if you had already planned to go to the men's game, what difference does it make? It's all the same, right? I understand for people who, you know, maybe were coming from Sydney and they had plans earlier in the day and were planning to come up to the coast later just for the women's game. Like, I get it. Like, it is frustrating. But more so probably frustrating for any Adelaide fans who had probably planned an away trip, maybe if they had planned an away trip to fly out to Sydney and then drive up to the coast. So, yeah, like, it's a whole thing, but like, regardless, it was a 3 p.m. kickoff. I was happy about it because it means I get to get out of Gosford quicker. So, nice.
We'll stay on the Central Coast. Let's dig into Sydney Central Coast to stick things off. Obviously, a huge game for Sydney in terms of first game back after 2 weeks, after 2 bad results. And it looked like the mental had changed. It looked like as Mackenzie said last week, it was good timing for them, and it looked like it did what it needed to do for Sydney. What were your thoughts watching things live? How did it feel on the pitch and from the sidelines?
Yeah, I mean, in the stadium itself, like everyone knows that Central Coast Stadium is a nice stadium. The frustrating thing is that they had closed their eastern stand, so we couldn't be in our normal away bay. So instead, they had a makeshift away section, which was next to the Yellow Army, basically. So it was all very frustrating. So the crowd itself was really annoying. And then especially post-match where they came and yelled at us for banging on a drum, and they said it was the worst 90 minutes of his life, and he said that it ruined his afternoon. But anyways, I won't get into the coasty annoyance. On the field, it looked the first half looked very tense for both sides. I think both sides were just eager to get the first goal. Casey Dumont had a really good game. I think she made some really good saves that really kept Sydney out of the game. You have a different goalkeeper in there, and Sydney's winning that 4-0, essentially. Like, I think they had that many chances. Margot Chevet, just another great game. I think she's been so underrated this season, and she's really stepped up. And I think I said this on Sky Blue Stories as well, but yeah, she's just such an underrated player and has really stepped up in terms of having to deal with sitting on the bench, not being called up into the squad. And, now she's a starting player and has really cemented a spot, which is awesome to see because she fully deserves it. Jada as well made some unreal saves. Mind you, my back was to the game most of the time. So I'm only telling you from briefly what I saw. I think it got to a point where we just looked a bit flustered as well in the second half, and it was like, we need to score a goal. We need to score a goal. Yeah. And I think Izzy Gomez is a very hard player to contain. So I think we didn't necessarily do the best job at containing her. And I think in the next game, they'll have to realize this is a player that you want to make sure isn't going to be getting the ball all the time and isn't going to be have I frozen? Oh, no.
I'm running off my hotspot, by the way.
Have you lost her, Cody?
Is it bad?
No, that's cool.
Yeah. My Wi-Fi cut out, sorry.
We're all having internet issues.
I don't know what happened. That's never happened. I opened the Wi-Fi thing up and it literally just said no internet. I was like, what?
Mine did that when I started the studio earlier. Just was no internet. So maybe it could be Riverside today.
Yeah, that's why you look like a potato. Where was I?
Izzy Gomez.
All right, I'll just go from that we couldn't contain her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we just couldn't contain Izzy Gomez, and she's such a physical player, and I think she's quite skillful as well. I think we did a pretty good job of, Kai Simon really isn't the player that she used to be, and yes, she's done a lot for the game and a lot for a lot of things, for women's football, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, this season, despite her, also not playing for half the season, maybe more than half the season, she just does not look like she used to. And, as harsh as it may be to say, but she's just past it. She's just past the level. And the cool thing about the Mariners is that they're bringing in all these young players and really talented players. And she's just, hasn't really delivered on, what she should be doing at her level, at her experience level. Yeah. All in all, really tight contest. And we were very lucky to get that goal from the Hawk, but very happy to see Indy Dos Santos back in the starting lineup and grabbing an assist.
Yeah. Cody, obviously, if Sydney were to focus in on Izzy Gomez, it would open up the field for one of your favourite players in Peter Trimmis to maybe shine a little bit more for that Central Coast team. What do the Mariners have to do to stay in touch and hopefully make an effort at derailing Sydney's year this year?
I wouldn't say they're out of touch or anything like that already. You've come up with a good performance. You've still got another leg to go. They've got every chance of working their way back into it. Peter Trimmis, would like to see her start. Who she comes in for, I don't know. I don't want to come out with a big claim and say that she's going to start ahead of Kai Simon or anything like that. As much as we can be a bit critical of her, but I think everything's set up for them. Not to actually go back and get on top of Sydney FC, but they've still got every opportunity to go and get a result. You got to remember as well, they won the last time they went to Leichhardt Oval, so it's not a tie that's over by any means, and they're a side that can surprise as well. So if I'm them, I'm sticking to what you know, sticking to your principles. You go out there and just go there with a bit of belief that you can get a result out of that game, really. I don't think there's much else to it. I don't think there's anything that you got to shake up massively. We know they're a quality side. I think as long as they keep that belief within themselves, you're going with a fighting chance, really.
I'm going to say this. That win that they had at Leichhardt has a giant asterisk around it.
Look, asterisks or no asterisks, there's still confidence that they can go there and say, oh, look, we've won there before. Why can't we do it again?
Asterisks or not, they are only behind by 1 goal heading away, which is one of the points that I made. I went live before the Jets game on Sunday, and I said that people, both the Jets and Central Coast, just need to keep in touch. They need to just either not lose by a ton or pull out a draw or just be close enough to be able to cause an upset. And Central Coast have done that for themselves. Whether they can back it up, another story. I know Michelle doesn't want that, but it is what it is.
Also, Josh, I did get your request to join that Instagram live. I do apologize. I was at an engagement.
You know what? Duty calls. You take the duty, Cody. If you didn't want to be a part of the live, you shouldn't have opened it. Boom, boom. There it is.
I thought you were going to say duty calls. I've got to be in an engagement. It was my cousin's engagement, man.
But in terms of a tough task, that is exactly what lies ahead of the Jets this week. I think in front of a record crowd in their first ever semi-final, unfortunately, we're just outplayed. I would say a lot of people that were at the game would probably blame the referee. In hindsight, yay, nay. It was a 50-50 call. There were a lot of things pulled up by the fourth official, which I hadn't seen much of previously. But yeah, not a great result for the Jets. 3-0 heading to Melbourne, where I'm pretty sure they haven't won in a fair few years against City, although they do have a good record in Melbourne recently, over in Tarneit. Cody, how do you see City? Obviously, Daniela Galic scoring one of the goals. They looked very strong. Obviously, the 2 weeks off didn't hinder them too much. How do you see
a 3-0 win at home?
City holding on to this lead and
result
going
into
a
home match? God, if they lose it from here, that'd be an all-time result for Jets, wouldn't it? Just quietly. But no, look, same thing as I said about the Mariners. City go out and do what they do, stick to their principles, play the way they've been playing for, I guess, large part all year. But no, I think that it's set up for them to. They've basically got one foot in the final already. I don't think there's much else you need to go on about it. I think if there's one thing I want to say about this side, when on their day, they are extremely fun to watch, and you've got players like Polisina, Ekic, Galic, just genuinely players that can get you excited in a way, like the genuinely fun players to watch. Someone that probably stood out in this game that I mentioned on this show at the start of the season, but it's probably she's a quiet player just by nature and what she does in her role in the side. But someone that I think maybe Michelle, you've mentioned her as well once or twice. Someone that probably doesn't get the plaudits that she deserves. Laura Hughes got an assist on Sunday. genuinely decent performance as well, integral to what they were able to get out of that match. Someone who, like I said, probably doesn't get the credit a lot that she deserves. Probably due to the nature of her role. Sorry, I was mixing up my words there. But an integral part of a side, playing that kind of 6 role where you've got to set tempo for your side, set everything up for them. She's kind of the reason why players like Polisina, Ekic, and Galich are able to go forward and kind of lax on their defensive duties, because Laura Hughes is sitting behind and ready to clean everything up. So good shout out to her. I think she deserves a bit of credit. She's done well.
100%. One thing we've just got to keep an eye on the news as well. Carly Rosbach and getting taken off very early in the game. Looked like a pretty serious ankle injury. She ended up in a boot and looked like she was in quite a bit of pain the whole game. So wishes with Carly that it's nothing too serious, but I would dare say that she's definitely going to be out next week, if not for the final as well. Michelle, was it the grounding of the Jets? I think I saw one publication publish. Do you reckon this is the final straw?
What do you mean?
Do you think they can come back from this? Going to Melbourne, obviously they're probably just going to go and throw everything but the kitchen sink at the game and try and score. Is there any way you see the Jets breaking through and kind of breaking down that City defense and putting a spoil on their celebrations this year?
Oof. If they do, it would be unreal. And I would say win the grand final. I think you just have it at this point. But it's a very, difficult task. I don't think anyone is going to expect Newcastle to go out and beat Melbourne City in Melbourne. But, I mean, it's football. Anything can happen. But, yeah, it would be very tough for them to do so. It would be cool. Like, I think everyone would love to see some kind of comeback like that. But the reality is that it's not a team that could probably take the win away. I mean, they've done it before. Like, they've done the wins away. So hard to say. Also, I'd just like to say, just back on that, when we're talking about injuries, in the Mariners Sydney game, Princess Sabini popped her shoulder out and then popped it back in and continued to play the entire first half, and then was subbed out at halftime. So, what a woman, what a machine.
That's an effort and a half there. Now, for anyone that's new to football or new to finals or anything like that, aggregate is something you might not have heard of that can confuse people. I did have to explain it a few times at the Jets game on the way out the gate. As we said at the top of the show, these scores carry on to next week. So Melbourne City head home with a 3-0 win, 3-0 lead, and Sydney have the same going home as well. So obviously big advantages for 1 and 2 in the league getting into the second last game of this season. Predictions, guys. I didn't warn you about this one, but who do we see in the final? I think it's pretty safe to say City. Michelle, I know you're hoping not for an upset. Do you think the Goals can hold out and pull out a win at home to secure that spot?
Yeah, I think so. I don't see why they couldn't. We've done pretty well at Leichhardt, making it a bit of a fortress. And obviously, we did have a pretty poor result against Melbourne Victory. But I do think they've got, that confidence. And the other thing is that they know finals football, so they know how to, perform in these tough conditions. So, yeah, and I really hope that they, maybe looked at the men's derby. I know that they were all there watching, so I'm really hoping that they kind of like took that, mentality of like, we need to win at all costs. It doesn't matter like what minute of the game we're at. Like, we just need to be able to win. So, yeah, I mean, I reckon that they could probably pull something off, as in Sydney.
Cody, I know you're the man of many
Maybe
hot takes.
the hot take this week is that there is no hot
Do you
takes.
see any upsets
Josh,
happening this weekend?
Sounds deep on the surface. It's probably just a really, really silly thing to kind of say. But no, look, on paper, Sydney and City really should be going through. I want to just drag back to the Jets game because as much as I do think they're a little bit down and out, there's still a figure in there by the whose name starts with S and ends in Arena Bolden, who maybe we're not counting too much in this regard. Whether she could score 3 or 4 goals and actually work the Jets relatively quiet. Got I think she only had 4 touches in the opposition box. Didn't actually get a proper shot away. Look, it's probably more of an ask on the rest of the team and try and get her the ball, get her in good positions. But if you give Serena Bolden a few sniffs at goal, you've got every chance of at least kind of working your way back into this match. So I don't want to count the Jets out. And then you got the Mariners who, look, let's be real. There's only 1 goal in it. They've got every chance of working their way back into it. So I don't want to say it's written just yet. I still think it'll be City and Sydney that go through, but I still think there's a lot to play for this weekend. Even Jets, who on paper look like they're out of it, I don't want to say they are. It scares me to say that because the Jets side, every time I write them off, they go and make me look stupid. So
100%.
Josh, if I predicted them last and they go from losing a first leg of a semi-final 3-0 to making their way to the grand final,
I mean,
I
Cody,
will
you did have them
happily eat
last.
my
Wouldn't
words
be like
because
the
that
best
will
foot in the
probably
mouth
be the
moment
single
if they won
greatest
a
thing
World
I have
Cup?
ever seen in football.
And
I've seen Spain. I've seen Spain win a World Cup, man.
I agree with you though. I think that Jets team, they do have a lot going. I think the major thing, and it's nothing against Tiana Robinson, but it wasn't her best game in goal. She was relied on a lot from the defense for some reason for clearing balls that were nearly at the halfway line. So that's got to be shaped up. But the third goal was an out of position moment that I don't think someone of the experience of Izzy Nino would make. So I think that would definitely be potentially on the cards for that change to happen next week. Obviously, Izzy's had nearly 5 weeks out. So that'll be interesting to see if they look at that.
So, Josh, you want a hot take
from
me? That probably shouldn't be a hot take.
You're 100% right. Going forward, Serena Bolden, Melina
I'd
Ayres
start
off the
Melina
bench.
Ayres and Bolden.
You've still got Lauren Allen.
Get them both in there. Get them working.
And
that's why I said it shouldn't be a
Copus
hot
Brown,
take, but for some reason it's not happening.
Feeding it. Go on. I'm literally thinking the issue is
not a hot take.
You score early in that game. You put City in 2 minds about how they've got to approach the rest of it.
I think at the end of the day, this could be their final game of the season. So why not? If they come out and put 1 goal in the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes, all of a sudden City might be like, oof, and then exactly, yeah. So I think exactly coming out. I think the hard thing is not having someone like Claudia Chico at the back as well, with her being out. I think that kind of dinted things a little. There were some moments. I can't think of who took over a spot, but there were definitely some moments where they were caught out of position and it was just a little slow off the ball. Wilson, thank you. She warmed up through the game, but it was just very slow to get into it with the pace coming down that left side. So obviously some massive opportunities for the Jets. And as I said, I think they're going to throw everything but the kitchen sink in. I think just put the top 11 on and just go run for 90 and see if we can just wear them down. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be exciting this weekend, and I'm going to be sitting on my lounge watching all of it with a cool beverage in my hand all day. So happy days. Yeah, so that's pretty much the rundown of the week. This is going to be a short episode this week, guys. Michelle, we heard your hot take at the start of the episode, but do you have any other hot takes or things that we need to talk about this week?
No, I mean, the frustrating part of the semi-final game was obviously, I guess no away section, for a game that they know will have away support. Like, I think it's a bit different when it's Newcastle City. Like, you're not going to expect a big city crowd, let's be honest. But I also wonder as well for the reverse fixture, how many Newcastle fans will travel down? How many, like, I imagine there'll be quite a few Mariners fans who will come down for the reverse fixture because, one, it's not super far as a drive. It's an hour for me to get to Central Coast. And then, there's a lot of Mariners supporters who live in Sydney and vice versa. And, I think that sort of fixture is one that, should have like a dedicated away section. And they obviously tried to do that once they closed the Eastern stand, and it just didn't work out the way that everyone wanted it to. It was fine in the end, but it was just a bit frustrating that, our section has been taken away from us. But yeah, not the biggest hot take, but I've been ranting on about away sections for about 2 years now, and we're still not getting that, and we're not even close to getting it, and the league will not do it. So yeah,
there's something fun about that away bay at Central Coast. I agree with you, and to have that taken away is not a great experience.
I mean, it for me, it's also just like everyone talks about community and how fun it is to be part of a community of women's football and blah, blah, blah. And yes, that is fun. And you know what else is fun? Being a part of it with the people who support the same team as you.
Yeah.
Like when you go on an away trip, you meet random people that you have never met before. And like that is part of the fun, is like not knowing who the random stranger that you're hugging is, and soon enough you become friends. And I always say this because I've been on a lot of away trips for men's games and women's games, but the difference is that at men's games, obviously there's a bigger crowd, and there's more, traveling support, but like you really become a family because you've all spent the same amount of money, if not more or less or whatever, but like everyone spent money to go there, and everyone is there for one reason, and that reason is just to watch our team play. And like, yeah, I don't know. I would love, some more away sections, and this is why I wonder as well what's going to happen with the final if, for example, City do host, because if Sydney hosts it, it will be at Allianz. I have no doubt that it'll be at Allianz, but as we've seen, the first game of the season, they did get a good crowd, and I think because it'll be a final, they could easily push for 10K plus. Yeah. Whereas City, and it's sad. It's really sad to say, just considering how successful of a club that it is, how little they do to engage with their fans, and how little they do to engage with a community and have an actual identity. And
I think the hard thing with that though is that it's Melbourne. Like you're in the middle of AFL,
but it's also
now, and like it's.
Yeah. But part of it is that Melbourne City doesn't have an identity. Where are they based?
Yeah,
West United surprisingly has done the best out of these new teams that have come through between MacArthur and Western. I don't know. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to sort this out. But I think some decisions need to be made. And they won't put the game in Sydney, and that's so fine.
I've got
especially if we don't deserve to host it. Like, I completely agree with that. But
one of them is to
it is,
back up on it, Michelle. Why
a worry
is
of
a woman
how
that works
big is that
within
final going to
football,
be. And I hope I'm wrong. And I
said
hope
to me,
they get a good crowd for the final.
I'll say for an NPL club that's going into the NSD. I won't say who the girl
100%.
is, what club she works for. But
Cody, Mike is all yours.
essentially,
anything you want to add
what
to
she
this
said
week's
to me
episode? I do
was,
have one more topic that I'm going to come back
getting
to
people
just
through
to
the
wrap it
gates
up
isn't
too.
our
Cody,
responsibility of the people on the field. It's basically the people within the role, the type of role that she works in. I think, Michelle, you've posted a good scenario there in terms of what have City done to kind of get people through the gates, because you can talk about identity, you can talk about location and things like that, but sometimes it doesn't feel like you talk about the success they have on the field. They could win 10 league titles in a row. If you're not enticing people to really buy into the club and go, okay, yeah, this is who I want to support, you're not going to build up fans long term. And when success only comes around again, they have had a few years where they guess have been offered a little bit from those glory days when they first entered the A-League Women's and basically bought half the Matilda squad. What was making people stick around in that time, and now that success is coming back, yeah, they might get a few extra fans next year because they're league champions, but what's enticing them to come earlier? What's enticing them to stay during those periods where you're not winning anything? So that's an interesting thing for City, the powers that be, to ponder. Second thing I want to say, I got my facts mixed up with Polydoran. They actually, I said 2 games because I didn't count the one that they played on the weekend. They are now 3 points ahead with 1 game to go and a plus 16 goal difference on the team below them. So 90% chance that Crystal Palace will be going up, to say the least. Last thing that I wanted to mention, Amy Sayer. Yeah, well, look, hopefully she resigns. Now we're just getting technical. I want to live in a fantasy land where she's got a life contract there and is playing WSL. Let me be Michelle. Let me live out my dreams.
Against the team that's in second.
Hopefully sub on the weekend, but she did play the game before. So maybe it was just something tactically. I do hope the reason why she hasn't played a lot of football this year is because she was injured.
Polydoran is also off contract.
Then it's
at the end of the season
that she gets a new contract. Last thing I wanted to say, Amy Sayer scored on the weekend as well. Just thought I'd throw that in there because I wanted to mention it before when we were doing that international roundup, but my internet cut out. So
no, I'm just saying that she's off contract, so hopefully she signs a new contract and gets to stay at the club. And
I don't know how many rounds in it is. I didn't actually check that part, but I should probably 2 matches in. And Kristianstad's they lost to the team coming first, which is Rosengard, Micah, and Charlie Grant's old club. But Sayer scored, so happy days.
Is the Demolsvens gone back, is it? We should probably look that up. They're two matches in. Let's probably have a look at that, guys. Sorry, my bad. And Avi Lewick and BK Harkin play tomorrow at 3 a.m. They won their first game. So there we go. Lovely. One thing I want to throw at you guys beforehand, obviously we had some news about the potential role for Sam Kerr at the Olympics coming to light in an official, non-official kind of mentory, supporty role. Obviously we knew Sam was going to be kind of in and around things somehow, some way. How do we feel about this? And obviously happy that it's not taking up a roster spot like we did in the World Cup for Kaya Simon. But your thoughts on this, Michelle, and how this could potentially impact the squad, and also like maybe let's have a chat about the injuries that are kind of in and around things at the moment, because obviously we've got Kat Gorry out, Claire Hunt's been injured, there's been a few up and downs that we're got question marks around. So let's just dive into the squad looking forward to Paris at the moment.
I mean, I don't really know like how to feel about it. I think the Martin Boyle situation when he went to the World Cup, it feels like a different situation almost. And I wonder if that's just because he didn't. There's obviously a lot of publicity around Sam at the moment. And and Martin Boyle was never the captain, and I feel like it may have been like somewhat of a different situation. Definitely not as polarizing as a figure as Sam is. Look, as long as it's not going to be a distracting sort of issue, I don't see why it would be a problem. I think people just would like to make issues for the sake of it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it really matters. Like I said, as long as she's not going to be like a distracting figure, I don't think it's necessarily a problem. She's obviously, the biggest
unless
name on that
I'm
team and has
sorely
a
mistaken,
long-term injury. So
we have only ever
I'm sure
taken
that
a vibes manager to
she would love to
one
be there, and I'm
men's
sure a lot
World
of
Cup,
the players would
and
love
that
her
was
there.
our best
but
ever World
yeah,
Cup.
I guess
So
the biggest question is
the track record's
how can we
pretty
make sure
good
that
with
this is
with
not a
someone there
distraction?
just to like
That's
set the tone a
exactly
little
it.
bit,
How
have a
much
bit
does
of
it take
fun.
away from the
I don't think
gravitas
it'll be a
of Steph
distraction.
being
The only way it'll be a
captain,
distraction is if the
Sam
media
there?
in Australia makes it a distraction. And
Cody,
the
any
Matildas.
opinions on
Oh,
this one?
there was a second part to that. And if the media makes it a distraction and the Matildas let it filter into their camp, I think they're pretty good at that second part. We all know the Australian media, to put it nicely, aren't always ethically great. So yeah, look, they might try and cause some problems. We saw what they were like during the World Cup. They can be pretty stupid when it comes to things like this, and with very little to no understanding of.
But they will,
the
and
beautiful
they
game
will.
that is football. But it's up to the Matildas to make sure that doesn't affect them. I don't think having Sam around the girls will be a bad thing. I think it'll probably be positive. It keeps the team together. It keeps the team dynamic, doing pretty well. Even if she wasn't there with the squad, I'd be surprised if she wasn't in Paris at all. Even if she was just there as a fan. So look, I don't see it as a bad thing. And if people want to complain about it, they can get off their high horse and learn what the game's really like. The Asian Cup stadiums, right?
Full stop. Yeah. Yeah. Vibes. Okay. There we go. I don't think there is anything else we need to touch on this week, guys. So that
Yes, there is.
Oh.
The Asia Cup.
Yeah. Of course. Michelle, take it away. Bring us the news.
Well, so Australia has announced, Football Australia has announced their proposed states to host the AFC Women's Asian Cup, which will be Western Australia, Queensland, and New South Wales. Apparently, these were all decided before the World Cup as well. And yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily bad. You look at these states, especially New South Wales and Queensland, where they have plenty of rectangular stadiums, and good sizes as well to kind of work. I know there's a lot of Victorians who are upset that the home of the Matildas isn't actually the home of the Matildas, and it was just a name that was given so that they could get government money. Cut that out.
The self-censoring. I love it. I would just like to say that I did just see a article that says the state of Victoria didn't actually bid to be one of the states to host. So,
yes.
Government will back themselves.
Yeah, well, the biggest problem is that these states, certain states don't want to be involved in the game, and we saw South Australia did not want to be involved in the World Cup and then eventually got on board, right? Like, it feels like it's, 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. When we look at Queensland as well, all the money that, don't know where it's gone, the money from the World Cup. But yeah, look, I think it'll be a good tournament if we do get the rights for it. And I think, for me especially, I think it's great that Western Australia is getting some more stuff.
100%.
They had, a handful of games during the World Cup, and I think
not that I'm aware of.
you
If
know
I can just put
this is
my
good.
2
This
cents
is a
in on
good
the
thing. And clearly they
states
want
that
it. If they've
will
bidded
be
for it,
hosting
they're
the
putting
Asian
the
Cup.
bid, so they know what it means.
As much as it might be a little bit frustrating that
So yeah,
the
I
three will
think
be
fair
Queensland,
play.
New South Wales, which is relatively close
It
together,
should be a fun tournament.
and Western Australia, which
if we get
is
the
kind
chance
of another
to grab
5-hour
it.
flight
So,
away.
yeah.
I'm intrigued to see how that'll
100%.
work, but what if
Perfect.
the Western Australian
Cody,
government
any
wants to back the
lasting
sport?
things that I
Good on them.
missed
I'm not going to
that
hold
I'm
it back.
aware of, or
But
things that I've
look, I
forgotten?
guess we're seeing which states genuinely want to be part of women's football and what it can bring without needing a whole World Cup and probably one of the at least top 3 or 5 sporting events that this country has ever seen. To go, oh yeah, maybe this thing will actually be good for us. We've got the right states hosting it then. We've got the ones that are really going to look after it and make sure that it is a genuine success. So I'm genuinely looking forward to it. Hopefully it's more than 3 stadiums like what India did. I think you might need 2 in WA just to kind of mitigate the travel factor. Put a group out there, let them play between 2 stadiums in that kind of part of the country. And I guess New South Wales and Queensland can work themselves out. So, you know what? All power. Forza Asian Cup, I guess. Oh, Amy Park would be brilliant for the Asian Cup, to be fair. Well, you got Tarnay soon, hopefully.
And also on that, not to disrespect the state of Victoria, but build some more rectangular stadiums. You have one rectangular stadium that's 25,000 seats, max 30. Build a stadium that you can host these events. No one wants. Yeah, it would be,
Yeah.
but they've got one stadium.
Look, if you look at the
WA,
I know this might be
WA's got one as well.
a bit of a weird point to make, considering
But WA's WA, and they also put in a bid.
Yeah, true.
You
got
actually remember
you'll
what
probably
stadium
have
sizes for that stadium
Newcastle,
were?
Central Coast,
I only remember because I was looking at it today.
Allianz,
But
maybe.
So they had
and
they had the
Sun
main
Corp,
stadium that they were using to host where the final and all that would be. That was 55,000 capacity.
Depending on what
they only had 2 other
they might put it
stadiums.
at Macedonia.
One was 18,000.
They won't put
One
anything
was
in
11
Macedonia.
and a
Training
half.
ground.
So you don't need like big fancy stadiums or anything like that. We could genuinely get 5 decent stadiums with what we have now. Or if
No.
Yeah, but think about it. I don't know how big a, say, Chinese Taipei v I don't know, Jordan would be in Australia as well. But then again, tournament mode.
18.
That's very true. That's very true. That was the next point I was going to make. But it's a tough. It's always a hard one to judge. Like if you get at least min.
I'd say that, but I would also say that would be pre-World Cup.
Probably hitting a market there that's
and you got to think
perfect for what this tournament needs. I'm not saying games are only going to get 2 to 5,000 people, but you're probably not going to get 50,000 for a fixture like that either.
But we thought that with all the random countries that came here for the World Cup.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get a good backing from population in Australia, yeah.
Yeah. You got to think though that we're a heaps drastically more multicultural country than India is, right? Like you look at these China, Thailand, or Philippines, Indonesia matchups. There's a lot of there's a lot of immigrants here that would probably go see their local country play. So there's probably a little bit of that in it as well. So could be very interesting.
Also, hopefully this means that people can stop going on about playing at the MCG. Shut up about the MCG. I never want to hear it again.
Yeah.
Playing at Marvel is not a good thing. Relax about it.
And honestly, we're probably going to see that with the Arsenal games anyway. Everyone's going to go, oh, this is shit. And we're going to be like, fucking told you. Like,
I don't know. I've seen Arsenal fans.
Yeah, true. So, oh my God. There you go. Cool. So that is our wrap up of the week, and look forward to everything else. Obviously, we've got two big second leg semi-finals coming up to find out who is playing for the title of Australia. We've got leagues back in running with the Demolsvens gone and the NWSL, as well as the final weeks of the WSL coming up. You'll find it all here on the Talking Tillies podcast. As always, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, which is where everything is going when we can get it there. Other than that, we've got some cool things in the pipeline that will be revealed over the next few days, weeks, whenever we get around to actually putting it together. Some big, some small, some in between. Whatever it is, make sure you're there and following along, and we'll be back next week with a brand new episode of the Talking Tillies podcast. Goodbye.